Hook/introduction. What if the one thing standing between you and the life you have been dreaming of is not your circumstances, not your background, not your luck, but the very thoughts running through your mind right now? Before you skip ahead, let that idea sit with you for a moment, because what you're about to hear in this audiobook could genuinely reshape the way you see yourself, your choices, and your entire future. Welcome to BetterSelf Audiobook. If this is your first time here, you have just found a space built for people who are serious about growing, learning, and becoming the best version of themselves. We bring you powerful audiobooks designed to challenge your thinking, strengthen your mindset, and inspire real action in your daily life. If this kind of content speaks to you, make sure you subscribe and stay with us, because what we share here is meant to make a lasting difference in your life. Your life does not change until your thinking changes. Read that sentence again. Your thoughts are not harmless background noise. The ideas you repeat each morning can influence what you attempt, what you avoid, what you tolerate, and what you believe is possible for you. A person who repeatedly tells himself, "I cannot do this," may stop trying before discovering what he can actually learn. A person who constantly expects failure may notice every problem and overlook every opportunity. Your mind can strengthen your decisions, or it can quietly weaken them. But here is the important question. Who is teaching your mind what to believe? In this audiobook, you will learn how to recognize repeated thoughts, challenge fear, pause before reacting, protect your attention, and develop stronger thinking through daily practice. You will learn how to turn difficult thoughts into better decisions and build genuine self-belief through small daily actions. This is not about pretending everything is positive. It is about becoming more aware, more disciplined, and more responsible with your thinking. Listen carefully, because the life you want begins with the thoughts you choose to practice every day. Chapter 1. Change your thinking to change your life. Your life changes when the way you think changes. Your daily choices come from the thoughts you allowed to stay in your mind. Your results often reveal the quality of those thoughts more clearly than your intentions ever can. A person can want a better life and still repeat the same thinking every morning. They can want confidence, but constantly tell themselves they are not ready. They can want better relationships while assuming people will disappoint them. They can want financial improvement while believing that nothing they do will make a difference. The problem is not always a lack of effort. Sometimes the person is working hard while carrying beliefs that keep directing the effort in the wrong direction. This is why personal growth begins with paying attention to your thinking. Your thoughts influence what you notice, what you ignore, what you attempt, and what you avoid. Two people can face the same difficult situation and make completely different decisions because they interpret the situation differently. One sees a problem that requires learning. The other sees proof that nothing will work. The event is the same. The response is different. There is an important lesson here. You do not control every event in your life, but you have much more influence over your response than you may realize. That response begins inside your mind. A difficult morning does not force you to become angry for the entire day. A mistake does not require you to call yourself a failure. A rejection does not prove that you have no value. These meanings are added by your thinking. Start noticing this in your own day. Pay attention to the first explanation your mind gives you after something goes wrong. Your phone stops working, and you immediately say that your whole day is ruined. Someone speaks to you sharply, and you decide that they do not respect you. You make one mistake at work, and you tell yourself that you are bad at everything. These reactions happen quickly because the mind becomes familiar with repeated patterns. The useful question is not whether you have negative thoughts. Everyone does. The useful question is whether you believe every thought that appears in your mind. A thought can be automatic without being accurate. Your mind can produce a judgment before you have enough information to make a fair judgment. Learning to pause between the thought and the response is one of the most useful skills you can develop. Here is a simple exercise. Take one thought that repeatedly lowers your confidence. Write it down exactly as it usually appears in your mind. Do not make it sound better. Write the real sentence. It may say that you are too old to start. It may say that other people are smarter. It may say that you always fail. Seeing the sentence on paper changes the exercise because you are no longer simply experiencing the thought. You are examining it. Now ask yourself what evidence supports that thought. Then ask what evidence does not support it. This small process teaches your mind to separate facts from assumptions. You may discover that the thought is based on one painful experience rather than your entire life. You may discover that you are judging your ability from a result that came before you had enough skill. You may discover that someone else's progress has become unfair evidence against yourself. This matters because people often make permanent judgments from temporary situations. A bad month becomes, my life is bad. A failed project becomes, I cannot succeed. A difficult conversation becomes, people never understand me. The mind turns one event into a general rule. Once that rule becomes familiar, you start noticing information that supports it and overlooking information that challenges it. You can change this habit by using more accurate language. Instead of saying, I am terrible at this, say, I have not learned this well yet. Instead of saying, I always make mistakes, say, I made a mistake here and I need to understand why. Instead of saying nothing is working, say my current approach is not producing the result I want. These sentences are not empty positivity. They are more precise descriptions of reality. Precision improves decision-making. A person who says I'm a failure has created a problem that feels impossible to solve. A person who says I missed 2 important deadlines because I planned poorly has identified a behavior that can be changed. The first statement attacks identity. The second identifies a problem. Good thinking makes problems specific because specific problems can be addressed. This is one of the strongest changes you can make in your daily life. Stop using your identity to explain every mistake. Your behavior can be examined without condemning your entire character. You can be responsible without being cruel to yourself. You can admit that you handled something badly while still believing that you can handle it better next time. Your mind also needs better questions. The questions you repeatedly ask yourself influence what your attention searches for. A person who constantly asks, why does this always happen to me? Usually searches for evidence of unfairness. A person who asks, what can I learn from this? Starts looking for useful information. A person who asks, what is the next action I can control? Moves toward responsibility. Use this during ordinary problems. You miss an appointment. Do not spend 20 minutes attacking yourself. Ask what caused the mistake. Was the reminder missing? Did you leave too late? Did you underestimate travel time? Once you know the cause, create one change for the next appointment. Set 2 reminders. Leave 15 minutes earlier. Prepare the night before. The mind becomes stronger through this process because it learns to convert mistakes into information. This is how thinking becomes practical. You're not trying to sit quietly and force yourself to feel positive all day. You're training yourself to interpret life more accurately and respond more effectively. That requires observation. It requires honesty. It requires practice. Your environment also influences your thinking more than many people notice. The information you consume every morning can affect the subjects that occupy your attention throughout the day. A person who starts the day with anger, comparison, complaints, and endless bad news may enter work already mentally tired. A person who spends the first part of the morning reading something useful, planning the day, and reviewing important goals begins with a different mental focus. This does not mean avoiding every negative story or difficult conversation. Life contains real problems. Mature thinking does not pretend that problems do not exist. It decides how much attention a problem deserves and what action should follow. You can understand a serious problem without allowing it to occupy every hour of your day. Try creating a short morning thinking routine. Before checking social media, take 5 minutes to write down 3 things. Write what matters most today. Write what could distract you. Write the one behavior you want to practice. This takes very little time, but it gives your mind a direction before outside information starts competing for your attention. The third point is especially important. Choose a behavior rather than a feeling. Do not write, "I want to feel confident today." Write, "I will speak clearly during the meeting." Do not write, "I want to feel disciplined." Write, "I will complete my most important task before entertainment." Feelings can change throughout the day. Behaviors can be chosen more directly. This distinction can change the way you approach personal growth. Many people wait for the right feeling before taking the right action. They wait to feel motivated before exercising. They wait to feel confident before speaking. They wait to feel prepared before starting. Strong habits develop in the opposite direction. You often act first and allow confidence to grow from repeated evidence that you can trust yourself. Your mind learns from your behavior. Every time you make a small promise and keep it, you create evidence that you can depend on yourself. Every time you repeatedly make promises and break them, you create different evidence. This is why small daily commitments matter. They are not insignificant. They shape how you see your own reliability. Choose one promise that is small enough to keep every day. Read 10 pages. Walk for 20 minutes. Study for 30 minutes. Put your phone away during one important task. Write tomorrow's priorities before sleeping. Keep that promise for a week. Do not add 10 more goals. Your purpose is to teach yourself that your decisions have weight. After 7 days, examine what happened. Did you keep the promise? What made it difficult? What time worked best? What distraction appeared most often? What change would make the habit easier? This review turns experience into knowledge. You are no longer simply trying to improve. You are studying your own behavior. That is a powerful shift. Personal growth becomes much easier when you stop treating yourself as a mystery. Observe your patterns. Record your actions. Notice what triggers poor decisions. Notice what helps you stay focused. Notice which people bring out your better behavior and which situations repeatedly pull you toward habits you want to leave behind. You will also discover that many thoughts are connected to physical states. Lack of sleep can make small problems feel much larger. Hunger can make patience harder. A cluttered workspace can increase distractions. Constant phone notifications can make sustained attention more difficult. This means changing your thinking is not only about words inside your head. Your daily conditions can influence the quality of your mental decisions. Take care of the basic conditions that support good thinking. Sleep at a reasonable time. Eat regularly. Move your body. Keep your work area usable. Reduce unnecessary notifications. Give yourself periods without constant digital input. These actions sound ordinary because they are ordinary. But ordinary habits can strongly affect how you respond to pressure. Now consider how you speak to yourself after a difficult day. Many people become their own harshest critic at night. They replay conversations. They remember mistakes. They imagine what other people might be thinking. Then they carry that mental noise into sleep and wake up tired the next morning. The problem becomes larger because it receives attention without receiving a solution. Use a different evening practice. Write down one mistake that needs correction and one action you will take tomorrow. Then write one thing you handled well. Keep it factual. You do not need exaggerated praise. You simply need a balanced record. This trains your mind to recognize both responsibility and progress. You may be surprised by what happens after several weeks. You begin catching unhelpful thoughts earlier. You notice the moment you start comparing yourself with someone else. You recognize the urge to react before you speak. You see that certain situations repeatedly produce the same emotional response. That awareness gives you a valuable space between the event and your decision. Use that space carefully. A person criticizes your work. Your first reaction may be defensive. Pause. Separate the tone from the information. The person may have spoken poorly and still identified something useful. You do not have to accept every criticism. You also do not have to reject every criticism. Ask what part is factual. Ask what part is opinion. Ask whether there is something you can improve. A family member disagrees with you. You may feel the need to prove yourself immediately. Pause again. Ask whether being understood is more important than being right in that moment. Sometimes a calm conversation solves more than a strong argument. Your mind becomes stronger when it can hold a disagreement without turning it into a personal attack. A plan fails. Do not rush to create a story about your future. Study the result. What did you expect? What actually happened? Which part was under your control? Which part was outside your control? What will you change next time? This approach protects you from emotional decisions and helps you learn from real experience. The goal is not to become a person who never has negative thoughts. That is unrealistic. The goal is to become a person who can notice a thought without immediately obeying it. You can feel fear and still make a careful decision. You can feel disappointed and still continue your responsibilities. You can feel angry and still choose your words. Emotional control does not mean having no emotion. It means refusing to let every emotion make the decision. Your thinking also affects the goals you choose. A weak goal often comes from vague thinking. I want a better life. Sounds good, but does not tell you what to do tomorrow. A useful goal has a clear behavior attached to it. I will study English for 30 minutes after dinner. 5 days a week gives your mind a specific target. Clear thinking produces clearer action. Break large goals into behaviors that can be measured. Do not measure only the final result. Measure the actions that lead toward it. A writer can count pages completed. A student can count focused study sessions. Someone improving fitness can track workouts. Someone trying to save money can record daily spending. Measuring behavior gives you information before the final result arrives. This is another reason your thoughts matter. Your mind needs useful feedback. Without feedback, you may work hard without knowing whether your method is effective. A person can spend months studying with poor methods and assume they simply lack intelligence. A better approach is to test the method. Study for a week, check what you remember, identify weak areas, and adjust the process. Do the same with your habits. A habit that fails repeatedly may need redesign rather than more self-criticism. If you always exercise after work but regularly feel exhausted at that time, try exercising earlier. If you constantly forget to read, keep the book beside your bed. If you spend too much time on your phone during work, place it outside your immediate reach. Good habits become easier when the environment supports the behavior. This gives you a practical rule for changing your life. Do not rely only on willpower. Change the conditions around the behavior. Make useful actions easier to start and unnecessary actions harder to access. Put your study materials where you can see them. Remove distracting apps from your first screen. Prepare your clothes before exercise. Keep your spending record easy to update. Small environmental changes can reduce the number of decisions you need to make. Your mind becomes calmer when your life becomes more organized. You do not need perfect order. You need enough structure to reduce unnecessary confusion. Decide where important items belong. Keep a simple schedule. Plan the most important tasks before the day becomes crowded. Finish small responsibilities instead of allowing them to collect in the background. There is also a deeper lesson in changing your thinking. You cannot build a different life while constantly protecting the same beliefs that created your current habits. Growth requires honest examination. You may have to admit that a belief you have carried for years is no longer useful. You may have to accept that a habit you once considered normal is damaging your progress. You may have to stop blaming circumstances for a behavior that is actually within your control. That honesty can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort does not automatically mean something is wrong. Sometimes discomfort is simply the feeling of seeing yourself clearly. The purpose is not to shame yourself. The purpose is to understand yourself well enough to make better decisions. Start with one thought today. Find the thought that appears most often when you are under pressure. Write it down. Check whether it is accurate. Replace exaggeration with facts. Identify the behavior that would improve the situation. Then take that action before the day ends. Do the same tomorrow with another thought. After enough practice, this becomes more natural. You stop accepting every first reaction as truth. You become more careful with the words you use about yourself. You begin choosing better questions. You make decisions based on facts instead of fear. You respond to mistakes with correction instead of self-attack. You stop building confidence through evidence rather than empty promises. This is where real change begins. It does not begin with becoming a completely different person overnight. It begins with one thought becoming more accurate. Then one decision becomes better. Then one action becomes stronger. That action produces a different result. The result gives you new evidence. The new evidence changes how you see yourself. Keep working at that process every day. Watch your thoughts. Question the ones that are unfair. Strengthen the ones that help you act responsibly. Give your attention to useful information. Choose behaviors you can repeat. Review your actions honestly. Make small corrections quickly. Your mind is involved in every decision you make today. It affects what you notice at breakfast. It affects how you speak to your family. It affects how you respond to pressure at work. It affects whether you continue after a mistake. It affects what you do during the quiet hour when nobody is watching. So give your thinking the same attention you give your work. Do not allow old beliefs to make new decisions. Do not let one bad experience define an entire future. Do not treat every emotion as a command. Learn to examine your thoughts and choose your response with care. The life you build is influenced by the thoughts you practice every day. Change those thoughts with honesty. Support them with better actions. Repeat those actions until they become part of your normal life. Your circumstances may not change immediately, but your decisions can change today. And better decisions repeated over time can create a very different life. Chapter 2. Notice the thoughts you repeat every day. Most people do not notice how often they repeat the same thoughts. They move through the day with familiar sentences running quietly in the background. Those sentences can shape how they see their work, their relationships, their abilities, and their future. A repeated thought can become so familiar that it stops feeling like a thought and starts feeling like a fact. Your mind has a habit of returning to familiar subjects. You may replay the same conversation while washing dishes. You may worry about tomorrow while driving home. You may compare your progress with someone else's while scrolling through your phone. You may remember an old mistake while trying to fall asleep. These moments seem small, but repeated mental attention can influence your mood and behavior throughout the day. Start by observing rather than correcting for one full day. Do not try to make your thoughts positive. Simply notice them. Pay attention to what your mind says during ordinary moments. Notice what you tell yourself after receiving criticism. Notice what you say internally after making a mistake. Notice what happens in your mind when someone succeeds before you. Notice the sentences that appear before you begin something difficult. This exercise can reveal patterns that are difficult to see otherwise. You might discover that your mind often expects problems before they happen. You might notice that you regularly assume other people are judging you. You might recognize that you speak to yourself more harshly than you speak to people you care about. You may also discover useful thoughts that you rarely appreciate because your attention is usually focused on what is going wrong. Keep a small record during the day. Every time you notice a strong repeated thought, write down a few words. Do not write an entire story. Write the basic idea. I am behind. They probably dislike me. I cannot handle this. I need to do better. Nobody understands me. I should have done more. By the end of the day, you may have a list that shows you something important about your mental habits. Now, look for repetition instead of judging yourself. One thought appearing once does not tell you much. A thought appearing 10 times deserves attention. Repetition shows where your mind spends energy. Your most common thoughts may point toward an unresolved fear, an unrealistic expectation, an old belief, or an area where you need a better plan. There is another useful distinction to make: separate facts from predictions. A fact is something you can verify. A prediction is something you believe may happen. My manager asked to speak with me tomorrow is a fact. I am going to lose my job is a prediction. The first statement gives you information. The second adds a story that may or may not be true. This difference can reduce unnecessary worry. Your mind often treats predictions as completed events. You may feel the stress of an outcome that has not happened. Your body can become tense. Your breathing can become shallow. Your attention can become scattered. Yet, the event itself may still be uncertain. Learning to label predictions as predictions gives you more control over your response. Use this simple sentence in your mind: I do not know that yet. It is a powerful way to create accuracy without pretending everything will be fine. Someone has not replied to your message. You do not know why. A decision has not been announced. You do not know the result. A person looked serious during a conversation. You do not know what they were thinking. This small correction prevents your mind from filling every gap with the worst possible explanation. Your repeated thoughts also reveal what you expect from yourself. Some people constantly tell themselves they should be further ahead. They look at their age, income, career, education, or relationships and decide that they have failed because their life does not match an imagined schedule. This creates pressure without creating a useful action. Replace vague self-judgment with a specific assessment. Ask what you actually want to improve. Maybe your finances need attention. Maybe your communication needs work. Maybe your daily routine lacks structure. Maybe you have avoided an important decision. Once the issue becomes specific, your mind can move from criticism toward responsibility. Be especially careful with the word always. It appears frequently in unhealthy thinking. I always mess things up. People always leave. I always lose motivation. Things never work for me. Such statements sound powerful because they are absolute, but absolute statements are often inaccurate. Look for exceptions. The moment you find one genuine exception, the statement becomes less reliable. This is not about arguing with yourself all day. It is about becoming accurate enough to make better decisions. Accuracy is useful because it tells you what actually needs attention. If you believe you always fail, you may stop trying. If you recognize that you failed in certain situations because of specific behaviors, you can work on those behaviors. Your repeated thoughts can also show where you have unfinished emotional business. A conversation from years ago may still appear in your mind because you never accepted what happened. You may continue replaying what you should have said. You may wish someone had treated you differently. You cannot change that conversation now, but you can decide what lesson you will carry forward. Write down one old situation that keeps returning to your mind. Then answer 3 questions. What happened? What did I learn? What can I do differently now? Keep your attention on what can be used today. The purpose is not to erase the past. The purpose is to stop spending today's attention trying to edit yesterday. Another common pattern is mental comparison. You see someone's promotion, new home, business, relationship, fitness, progress, or lifestyle, and immediately measure your own life against theirs. The problem is that you are comparing your complete private experience with a small visible part of another person's life. You do not know their costs, problems, fears, debts, failures, or sacrifices. Use comparison as information instead of punishment. When someone has something you want, ask what specifically attracts you to it. Is it their income, their confidence, their freedom, their communication skills, their discipline? Once you identify the actual quality, you can study the behavior behind it. This turns jealousy into useful information. Pay attention to the thoughts that appear before procrastination. This is an area many people overlook. Procrastination often begins before the behavior. You may tell yourself that you need more time. You may decide that you should start after checking one message. You may think the task will take too long. You may tell yourself that you work better under pressure. These thoughts can make avoidance feel reasonable. Next time you delay an important task, record the sentence that appeared immediately before you delayed it. That sentence is valuable data. Perhaps the task is unclear. Perhaps you fear doing poor work. Perhaps you have made the task too large. Perhaps you're tired. Once you know the reason, you can solve the actual problem. For example, a student may repeatedly think, "I have so much to study." That thought creates pressure because the task has no clear boundary. A better approach is to define the next 40 minutes. Choose one chapter. Remove the phone. Read 5 pages. Write down the main points. The mind handles a clear task more easily than an undefined burden. Your repeated thoughts also influence conversations. Before speaking to someone, you may already have a story about how they will react. You expect disagreement, rejection, criticism, or embarrassment. Because you expect it, you may speak defensively. The other person responds to your tone. Then you use their response as proof that your original belief was correct. Notice this pattern carefully. Your expectation can influence your behavior, and your behavior can influence the response you receive. This does not mean you cause everything that happens. It means your mental preparation can affect the interaction. Enter important conversations with one clear goal. Understand the issue. Speak directly. Listen carefully. Do not prepare an argument for a response that has not happened. At the end of each day, spend 5 quiet minutes reviewing your mental patterns. Ask yourself which thought appeared most often. Ask what situation triggered it. Ask whether it was based on fact or assumption. Ask what action would address the real issue. Then leave the matter there and prepare for tomorrow. Do this consistently for 2 weeks. You may notice that certain thoughts return at predictable times. Some appear after waking, some appear during work, others appear after using social media or talking with certain people. This information gives you a chance to change the conditions that trigger them. Your goal is not to control every thought that enters your mind. That would create another unnecessary struggle. Your goal is to become familiar with your own mental habits. A thought that is noticed can be examined. A thought that is examined can be challenged. A thought that is challenged does not have to control your next action. Give yourself that attention every day. Listen to the sentences you repeat silently. Notice the assumptions behind them. Check them against facts. Correct exaggerations. Identify real problems. Take practical action where action is possible. Let uncertain matters remain uncertain until you have better information. The quality of your thinking is shaped by what you repeatedly give your attention to. So pay attention carefully. Your mind is learning from the thoughts you practice, and every day gives you another opportunity to teach it something better. Chapter 3. Stop letting fear decide your choices. Fear can protect you from real danger, but it can also influence ordinary decisions that do not require protection. It can make a simple conversation feel risky. It can make a new opportunity feel impossible. It can make you delay a decision until the opportunity disappears. The important skill is not removing fear from your life. It is learning to decide based on facts and values instead of allowing fear to make every important choice. Fear becomes powerful when you treat the feeling as evidence. Your body may become tense before a presentation. Your heart may beat faster before asking for something important. Your mind may produce thoughts about rejection before you make a phone call. These reactions are real, but they do not automatically tell you what will happen. A physical response can mean that something matters to you. It does not mean that you should avoid it. Start by separating danger from discomfort. Real danger requires caution and sensible protection. Discomfort often appears because you are doing something unfamiliar. Speaking honestly can feel uncomfortable. Applying for a better position can feel uncomfortable. Learning a new skill can feel uncomfortable. Meeting new people can feel uncomfortable. None of these experiences automatically mean that you should stop. A useful daily exercise is to name the exact thing you are afraid of. Do not write, "I am scared of failure." Make it specific. Write, "I am afraid that my manager will reject my request." Or write, "I'm afraid that people will notice my mistakes during the presentation." Specific fear can be examined. General fear feels much larger because it has no clear boundaries. Once the fear is specific, ask what is actually under your control. You cannot control another person's answer. You can prepare your request. You cannot guarantee that everyone will like your work. You can improve the quality of what you produce. You cannot control whether an opportunity succeeds. You can control whether you prepare properly and learn from the result. This distinction changes the way you make decisions. Fear often focuses your attention on outcomes you cannot guarantee. Strong decision-making brings your attention back to actions you can perform. A person who wants to start a business may spend months worrying about failure. A more useful approach is to research the market, calculate the cost, test the idea on a small scale, and learn from customer feedback. The second approach does not remove uncertainty. It makes uncertainty manageable. Fear also grows when you keep avoiding the same situation. Avoidance gives immediate relief. That relief can teach your brain that avoiding the situation was the right decision. Then the next attempt feels even harder. This is why a person can become increasingly nervous about something they rarely do. The lack of practice keeps the situation unfamiliar. You can interrupt this pattern through small exposure. Start with the smallest reasonable version of the action. Someone afraid of public speaking does not need to begin with a large audience. They can speak for 2 minutes in front of one trusted person. Then they can record themselves. Then they can speak in a small group. Each step provides new information about what they can actually handle. This method is useful because confidence often comes from evidence. You become more confident after experiencing yourself doing something difficult. A person who repeatedly avoids a challenge has little evidence that they can manage it. A person who takes controlled steps develops real experience. The confidence is not imaginary. It comes from completed actions. Be careful with the thought that says, "I need to feel ready." Readiness is often created through preparation and practice. A musician does not become ready by waiting for nervousness to disappear. A student does not become ready by hoping the exam feels easy. A professional does not become ready for every difficult conversation by waiting for perfect confidence. Preparation reduces uncertainty, but some uncertainty remains. Use a preparation checklist for situations that make you nervous. Write down what you need to know. Write down what you need to practice. Write down what could go wrong. Write down how you would respond. Then stop preparing once you have completed the useful work. Endless preparation can become another form of avoidance. There is a difference between preparing and hiding. Preparation produces readiness. Hiding produces delay. You can study one more article, watch another video, rewrite the same message 10 times, or wait for the perfect moment. At some point, more preparation adds very little value. The next useful step is action. Fear often becomes stronger through imagination. Your mind can create a detailed negative future from very little information. You picture embarrassment. You picture rejection. You picture losing everything. You picture people talking about you. Notice what is happening. Your mind is creating a possible event, and your body is responding as though it has already happened. Bring yourself back to the present facts. What has actually happened? What information do you have? What remains unknown? What is the smallest responsible action you can take? These questions bring attention away from imagined outcomes and toward current reality. Another powerful skill is learning to tolerate an imperfect result. Many choices feel frightening because people believe the outcome must be successful. That standard creates unnecessary pressure. A job application can be rejected. A conversation can go badly. A business idea can fail. A new habit can break after several days. These outcomes can hurt, but they also provide information. Do not make every decision with the goal of protecting your self-image. Sometimes you need to risk looking inexperienced. You may ask a basic question. You may admit that you do not understand something. You may submit work that is good but not perfect. You may enter a room where you know nobody. The fear of looking foolish can keep you from gaining experience that would eventually make you capable. Consider how children learn. They make mistakes without having a long history of judging themselves for every mistake. An adult often carries years of memories that say, "Do not repeat that embarrassment." The memory can become a rule, but the old event may no longer describe your current ability. You have learned since then. Review one fear from your past that still influences your choices. Ask whether the original event is still happening. Ask what you know now that you did not know then. Ask whether the lesson should be never do this again or something more useful, such as prepare better next time. Mature thinking does not ignore past mistakes. It extracts the useful lesson without turning one event into a permanent restriction. Fear can also come from other people's expectations. You may avoid changing careers because your family expects you to stay where you are. You may avoid saying no because you want everyone to approve of you. You may choose a lifestyle because it looks successful to others, even though it does not match what you value. Ask yourself whose approval is influencing the decision. Then ask what responsibility you have toward your own future. Respecting other people does not require giving them control over every major decision in your life. You can listen carefully, consider useful advice, and still make your own choice. Do not confuse courage with reckless behavior. Courageous action still uses judgment. You should not ignore financial facts because you want to prove that you are brave. You should not enter an unsafe situation to demonstrate confidence. You should not make a major decision without understanding the consequences. Strong thinking combines courage with responsibility. Before an important decision, write down 3 possible outcomes. Write the best realistic result. Write the most difficult realistic result. Then write the most likely result based on the information you have. This exercise can reduce the tendency to focus only on the worst case. It also forces you to prepare for consequences instead of simply reacting to fear. You can use another test as well. Ask yourself what you will regret more in 1 year. Will you regret trying and learning from the result? Or will you regret never giving yourself the opportunity? This does not mean every opportunity should be accepted. It means you should include future regret in your decision rather than allowing present discomfort to make the choice automatically. Fear becomes especially costly when it influences small daily choices. You remain silent during a meeting, even though you have useful information. You delay asking for clarification because you are afraid of looking inexperienced. You avoid exercise because you do not want to feel uncomfortable. You keep postponing an important conversation because you hope the problem will disappear. These small decisions can shape your life because they happen repeatedly. A single avoided conversation may not matter much. Hundreds of avoided conversations can affect relationships. One missed learning opportunity may not change your career. Years of avoiding challenges can limit your skills. Fear does not always damage life through one dramatic decision. It can influence life through hundreds of small choices. Start reversing that pattern with one action each day. Speak up once. Ask one clear question. Start the task you have delayed. Contact the person you need to contact. Practice the skill you have been avoiding. Set a reasonable boundary. Submit the application. Make the appointment. The action should be safe and responsible, but it should also require you to move beyond your usual comfort. At the end of the day, record what happened. Do not record only whether you succeeded. Record what you expected and what actually occurred. You may discover that the feared reaction never happened. You may discover that the task was difficult but manageable. You may discover that you survived an uncomfortable conversation and learned something useful. This creates a better relationship with fear. You stop treating it as a command. You begin treating it as information that deserves examination. Sometimes fear will tell you to prepare. Sometimes it will tell you to slow down. Sometimes it will reveal that something matters deeply to you. But the final decision should come from careful judgment. Your life becomes more open when fear is no longer making every choice. You still respect risk. You still prepare for consequences. You still protect yourself from genuine danger. But you stop allowing imagined rejection, embarrassment, uncertainty, or temporary discomfort to decide what you are capable of doing. Take one decision you have been delaying and examine it today. Write the fear clearly. Identify the facts. Separate what you control from what you cannot control. Prepare for the realistic risks. Choose the smallest responsible action and take it. Then learn from what happens. That is how you teach your mind that fear can be present without being in charge. Chapter 4. Teach yourself to think before reacting. A strong mind is not measured by how quickly you respond. It is measured by how carefully you choose your response. Many problems become larger because people answer the first emotion instead of examining the situation. A sharp comment becomes an argument. A small mistake becomes an angry accusation. A stressful message produces an immediate reply that creates another problem. The ability to pause gives you a chance to choose a better action. Your first reaction is often fast because it comes from habit. Someone interrupts you, and irritation appears before you have processed what happened. Someone criticizes your work, and you immediately prepare a defense. A friend cancels plans, and you start wondering whether they value you. The feeling can arrive before the facts are clear. This does not make you weak. It makes you human. The important skill is learning what to do after that first reaction appears. Start by recognizing the physical signs that come before an impulsive response. Your jaw may tighten. Your shoulders may become tense. Your voice may become louder. Your breathing may change. You may feel heat in your face or pressure in your chest. These signals can become useful early warnings. They give you a chance to slow down before your emotion controls your words. The next time you notice one of these signs, do not immediately explain yourself. Take a few slow breaths and let the first emotional wave settle. You are not avoiding the issue. You are creating enough mental space to understand it. A short pause can prevent several minutes of angry speech and several days of regret. There is a simple rule worth practicing. Delay important responses when your emotional state is unusually strong. This applies especially to messages, arguments, complaints, and major decisions. You do not need to answer every message the second it arrives. You do not need to solve every disagreement while you are angry. Time can give you information that emotion hides. Consider a message that feels disrespectful. Your first instinct may be to respond with the same tone. Before sending anything, read the message again and remove your interpretation. Look only at what the person actually wrote. Then ask what outcome you want. Do you want to solve the issue, correct a misunderstanding, set a boundary, or simply express anger? Once the goal becomes clear, your response becomes easier to control. This is an important difference between reaction and response. A reaction is driven mainly by what you feel in the moment. A response considers what your action will produce afterward. The reaction asks, "What do I want to say right now?" The response asks, "What should happen because I say this?" Use that second question during difficult conversations. It changes the direction of your attention. Instead of preparing your next attack while the other person speaks, you start listening for information. You may still disagree. You may still need to be firm, but your words become more deliberate. Listening is harder than many people realize because the mind often prepares an answer before the other person finishes speaking. You hear the first part of a sentence and begin building your defense. Then you miss the details that could have changed your understanding. Practice listening until the person finishes. Then repeat the main point in your own words before responding. This simple habit can reduce many unnecessary misunderstandings. You can also learn to separate intention from impact. Someone may say something that hurts you without intending to hurt you. Someone may have good intentions and still behave badly. You do not need to guess their intention before addressing the effect of their behavior. You can say what happened, explain how it affected you, and state what you need going forward. This makes communication more practical. Instead of saying, "You never respect me," describe the specific event. "You interrupted me 3 times while I was explaining the problem." The second statement gives the other person something they can understand and address. The first statement attacks their character and invites an argument about whether they are a good or bad person. Be careful with extreme words during conflict. Words such as always and never often make people defensive because they turn one event into a judgment about their entire behavior. Specific language keeps the conversation connected to reality. You can be direct without making the situation larger than it is. Another useful habit is to ask yourself what information you are missing. You may receive a short answer and assume someone is angry. You may see a delayed response and assume you have been ignored. You may notice a mistake and assume someone was careless. Before deciding what something means, ask what else could explain it. This does not mean creating endless excuses for other people. It means refusing to make decisions with incomplete information. You can investigate without becoming suspicious. You can ask directly without accusing. A calm question often gives you more useful information than an angry assumption. Your reaction can also be influenced by your past. A present situation may remind you of something that happened years ago. The current event may be small, but the old memory adds emotional weight. You may react strongly because the situation feels familiar. Recognizing this pattern helps you avoid treating today's person as though they are responsible for yesterday's experience. Notice the difference between the event and the meaning you attach to it. Someone forgets to call. The event is that the call did not happen. The meaning may be that they do not care about you. Those are not the same thing. Before reacting to the meaning, check the facts. This skill is especially valuable in close relationships. People who spend years together learn each other's sensitive areas. A careless sentence can trigger an old argument because both people already know how the pattern works. One person becomes defensive, the other becomes louder. Both feel misunderstood. The pattern continues because nobody interrupts it. You can interrupt it by changing your part of the pattern. Lower your voice. Stop interrupting. State the issue clearly. Ask for a short break if the conversation is becoming destructive. Return to the discussion after you have calmed down. This is not weakness. It is responsible communication. You also need to practice this skill outside conflict. Your reactions to food, entertainment, spending, social media, and other distractions are decisions too. A notification appears, and you immediately check it. You feel bored and open an app. You feel stressed and buy something you do not need. The pattern is the same. A feeling appears and behavior follows without much thought. Create small pauses around automatic habits. Before opening an app, ask what you intended to do. Before buying something unnecessary, wait 10 minutes. Before eating because of stress, check whether you are actually hungry. Before changing your plan because you feel tired, ask whether you need rest or simply want to avoid effort. The purpose is not to question every tiny action. That would become exhausting. The purpose is to practice conscious choice in situations where you repeatedly act without thinking. Once you identify a few important patterns, you can create simple rules that reduce impulsive decisions. For example, keep your phone away during focused work. Do not send important messages while angry. Wait one night before making a major purchase. Do not discuss serious relationship problems in the middle of a shouting match. Finish listening before defending yourself. These rules reduce the need to make difficult decisions in emotionally intense moments. Your environment can also help you respond better. Remove unnecessary triggers where possible. Turn off non-essential notifications. Avoid checking difficult messages while you are rushing. Give yourself enough time before important meetings. Keep your schedule realistic so that constant exhaustion does not make patience harder. Physical tiredness matters because self-control becomes more difficult when your basic needs are ignored. A person who has slept poorly and worked for 12 hours may respond differently from the same person after proper rest. This does not excuse harmful behavior. It gives you information about why certain situations become harder to manage. Pay attention to your most difficult times of day. Maybe you become impatient late at night. Maybe you make poor decisions when you skip lunch. Maybe you become easily distracted after long periods online. Once you notice the pattern, change the conditions before the problem appears. Another powerful practice is writing before speaking. This works especially well for difficult conversations. Write down what happened. Write what you felt. Write what you need. Then remove accusations and unnecessary details. What remains can often become a clear conversation. For example, instead of saying, "You make everything difficult," you might say, "I need us to agree on responsibilities before the week begins." That sentence is easier to understand and easier to act on. The goal is not to make your language soft. The goal is to make it useful. You will also need to accept that some people will try to pull you into fast reactions. They may raise their voice. They may interrupt. They may make personal comments. You cannot control their behavior, but you can decide whether you will copy it. Staying calm does not mean accepting disrespect. You can calmly end a conversation, state a boundary, or leave the situation when necessary. A controlled response is often stronger than a dramatic one because it keeps your attention on the actual issue. You do not waste energy proving that you are angry. You use that energy to decide what needs to happen next. Practice the pause every day. Use it before answering a difficult message. Use it when someone criticizes you. Use it when you feel an impulse to spend money. Use it when you are about to make a decision while exhausted. Use it when a familiar argument begins. The more often you practice in ordinary situations, the easier it becomes during serious ones. At night, review one moment when you reacted too quickly. Do not punish yourself for it. Study it. What happened first? What did you feel in your body? What thought appeared? What did you say or do? What response would have produced a better result? This turns a mistake into training. Then look for one moment when you paused and handled yourself well. Identify what helped. Maybe you walked away for 5 minutes. Maybe you asked a question instead of making an accusation. Maybe you waited before sending the message. Recognizing successful self-control helps you repeat the behavior. Your goal is not to become emotionless. Emotions carry useful information. Anger can show that a boundary has been crossed. Fear can signal uncertainty. Sadness can show that something matters. Excitement can reveal an opportunity. The skill is learning to listen to emotion without giving it complete authority. Give yourself time to understand what you feel before deciding what to do about it. That small separation can change the quality of your choices, your conversations, and your relationships. A person who can pause has more options than a person who reacts immediately. The next time something provokes you, notice the first physical signal. Slow your breathing. Identify the facts. Ask what you want the situation to produce. Consider what information you are missing. Choose words that address the real issue, then act. Practice this until the pause becomes part of your normal behavior. You will still face difficult people and stressful situations. You will still feel anger, disappointment, fear, and pressure. But you will become less dependent on the first reaction that appears. Your mind will have more room to choose carefully, and your choices will begin to reflect the person you are deliberately becoming. Chapter 5. Focus your mind on what matters. Your attention is one of the most limited resources you have each day. Money can be earned again. Time cannot be recovered after it has passed. Yet, many people give their best attention to things that produce little value while giving their remaining energy to the responsibilities that actually shape their lives. A better life requires more than having goals. It requires deciding what deserves your attention and protecting that attention from unnecessary demands. Look at an ordinary day and notice where your attention goes. You may wake up and immediately check messages. One notification leads to another. A short visit to social media becomes 20 minutes. Then a news story creates concern. Another person's success creates comparison. By the time you begin your important work, your mind has already handled dozens of unrelated subjects. The problem is not simply that your phone exists. The deeper problem is that your attention is being directed by whatever appears in front of you. That makes your priorities weaker than your environment. A focused person does not necessarily have fewer responsibilities. They are better at deciding which responsibility deserves attention first. Start by identifying the 3 areas that matter most in your current life. These might be your health, work, family, education, finances, or personal development. Choose based on your real responsibilities, rather than what looks impressive to other people. Your priorities should reflect the life you're actually trying to build. Then examine your calendar. Your priorities become meaningful only when they appear in your schedule. Saying that health matters while given no time to sleep or exercise is not a useful plan. Saying that family matters while giving every free hour to work creates a different message. What you repeatedly make time for reveals what receives your attention. Choose one important task each morning and give it protected time. Do not begin with 10 major goals. Select the task that would make the day more valuable if completed. Then decide when you will work on it. A clear start time removes one common problem. You do not have to keep asking yourself when you will begin. Focus also requires knowing what not to do. This is where many people struggle. They create long lists of tasks, but rarely remove anything. Every additional task competes for attention. Some tasks are necessary, others are habits, requests, or distractions that have slowly entered the schedule. Review your responsibilities and ask a simple question. Does this need my attention today? If the answer is no, move it. If another person can handle it, consider giving them responsibility. If it does not matter anymore, remove it. Your mind becomes easier to manage when your commitments are realistic. There is a difference between being busy and being useful. A person can answer messages all day and still avoid the work that creates important results. They can organize files for hours while delaying a difficult conversation. They can read about productivity without completing the project. Activity can feel productive because it keeps you moving. But movement alone does not tell you whether you are making progress. Use results to judge your attention. At the end of the day, ask what important thing became better because you worked on it. This question can expose the difference between real progress and simple activity. Another major problem is divided attention. Many people believe they can work while checking messages, listening to videos, and switching between tasks. Each switch creates a new demand on the mind. Even a short interruption can make it harder to return to the original task with the same level of concentration. Try focused work in short blocks. Choose one task. Put your phone away. Close unrelated tabs. Set a clear period such as 30 or 40 minutes. During that time, do only the selected work. Afterward, take a short break and decide what comes next. You may discover that your attention improves quickly once interruptions are removed. The first few minutes may feel uncomfortable because your mind is used to constant stimulation. Stay with the task. Boredom is not a signal that you need another source of entertainment. Sometimes it is simply the beginning of deeper concentration. This matters because important skills require sustained attention. Reading difficult material, learning a language, writing, studying, planning finances, solving problems, and having meaningful conversations all require you to stay with one subject long enough to understand it. Your attention is also affected by unfinished tasks. A small responsibility sitting in the back of your mind can continue demanding mental space. You may be working on one project while remembering that you need to pay a bill, reply to an email, buy something, or make an appointment. The task does not need to be large to become distracting. Use a simple external list. Write down tasks that you cannot complete immediately. This tells your mind that the responsibility has been recorded and will not be forgotten. Then return to the task in front of you. You do not need to keep every reminder active inside your head. Another useful habit is grouping similar tasks together. Instead of checking email every few minutes, choose specific times. Instead of handling small administrative tasks throughout the entire day, put them into one block. Instead of allowing errands to interrupt work repeatedly, plan them together. This reduces unnecessary switching. Your mind does not have to keep changing its mode. One period can be for deep work. Another can be for communication. Another can be for household responsibilities. Structure creates fewer decisions and protects your strongest attention for important work. Be careful about giving too much attention to other people's opinions. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every criticism requires a defense. Not every disagreement needs to continue for an hour. Your attention has a cost, and spending it on arguments that produce nothing can leave you mentally exhausted. This does not mean ignoring useful feedback. Learn to distinguish information from noise. A thoughtful criticism that helps you improve deserves attention. A random insult from someone who knows little about your situation may not deserve any. Your responsibility is not to respond to everything. Your responsibility is to decide what is useful. The same principle applies to comparison. Someone else's progress can consume hours of mental attention without improving your own situation. You look at their career, income, appearance, travel, or achievements, and begin asking why you are not there yet. The comparison may produce strong emotion, but very little useful action. Redirect that attention toward your own measurable progress. Ask what skill you can improve this month. Ask what financial habit needs correction. Ask what relationship requires more effort. Ask what task you have avoided. These questions lead back to your life. Focus also requires accepting that some valuable things will not happen immediately. You may want to improve your career, health, finances, relationships, and knowledge at the same time. But your available time remains limited. Trying to transform everything at once can create scattered effort. Choose a season of emphasis. Give one major area more attention for a period while maintaining basic standards in the others. You might spend 3 months improving a professional skill while keeping your health routine simple. Later, you can shift more attention toward another goal. This approach respects your limited time instead of pretending you have unlimited energy. Your priorities will also change as your circumstances change. A young professional may need to focus heavily on learning. A parent may need to give more attention to family responsibilities. Someone recovering from financial difficulty may need to prioritize stability. There is no universal list of priorities that works for every person. What matters is making the decision consciously. Do not let the loudest demand automatically become the most important demand. One of the most useful exercises is the evening attention review. Look back at your day and divide your activities into 3 groups. Some activities moved your important goals forward. Some maintain necessary responsibilities. Others consume time without adding meaningful value. Be honest. The purpose is not guilt. The purpose is information. After several days, patterns become visible. You may discover that your most productive hours are being spent on minor tasks. You may notice that certain websites consistently destroy your concentration. You may see that late nights make the next morning less effective. You may realize that you have agreed to too many commitments. Once you see the pattern, make one adjustment. Move important work into your best hours. Remove one distracting application. Create a phone-free period. Say no to one unnecessary commitment. Prepare tomorrow's first task before going to bed. Small changes can protect a large amount of attention. Your focus is also connected to the people around you. Some relationships require constant emotional attention. Some conversations repeatedly pull you into complaints, gossip, or unnecessary conflict. You cannot control every person, but you can decide how much time and attention you give to conversations that do not improve your life. Choose relationships that support honesty, responsibility, learning, and mutual respect. Give your attention to people who matter. Be present when you are with them. A focused life is not a life spent working every minute. It is a life where your attention is deliberately given to things that deserve it. Rest belongs in that picture as well. Rest is not wasted time when it allows you to return to important work with better attention. Constant exhaustion makes concentration harder. Schedule enough sleep and short periods of recovery. A tired mind often seeks easy stimulation because sustained effort feels more difficult. Protect quiet time. Sit without a screen for a few minutes. Walk without constantly checking your phone. Let your mind process the day. Constant input leaves little room for reflection. Quiet moments can help you notice what has been receiving too much attention and what has been neglected. Today, choose one important responsibility. Give it a specific time. Remove the biggest distraction during that period. Keep a simple record of what you complete. Then review the result at night. Repeat that practice tomorrow. Over time, you will learn that focus is not about forcing your mind to work endlessly. It is about giving your best attention to the right things and refusing to let every new demand take control of your day. Your goals become clearer when your attention becomes deliberate. Your decisions improve when your priorities are visible. Your days become more meaningful when your time is spent on what genuinely matters to you. Chapter 6. Build stronger thinking through daily practice. Strong thinking is developed through repeated practice. Just like any other useful ability, you do not become better at making decisions by simply wishing to become wiser. You improve by examining information, learning from mistakes, solving small problems, and making careful choices every day. The quality of your thinking is shaped by what you repeatedly practice during ordinary moments. Many people believe good thinking means having the right answer quickly. In real life, better thinking often means knowing how to slow down and understand the problem before choosing an answer. A person who takes 5 minutes to understand an issue can make a better decision than someone who responds immediately with confidence. Speed has value in some situations, but accuracy matters more when the decision affects your future. Begin your day with one small mental exercise. Take a situation you expect to face and write down what you know about it. Then write what you do not know. This simple separation can prevent assumptions from becoming facts. You may discover that you are worried about a result, even though you have very little information about what will actually happen. Practice this with ordinary situations. You receive an email from your manager saying that they want to talk. The fact is that they want to talk. You do not yet know whether the discussion is positive or negative. Your mind may create several explanations within seconds. Instead of accepting the first explanation, wait for the actual conversation. This is a daily form of mental discipline. Another way to strengthen your thinking is to explain difficult ideas in simple words. Choose something you recently learned and explain it aloud as though you were teaching it to a teenager. Notice where your explanation becomes unclear. Those unclear parts show you what you do not fully understand. This exercise is useful because repeating information is not the same as understanding it. You can use the same method with your own beliefs. Choose one belief that strongly influences your decisions. Ask yourself where it came from. Did you learn it from experience? Did someone tell you it was true? Did you observe it repeatedly? Has your situation changed since you first accepted it? This does not mean every old belief is wrong. It means important beliefs deserve examination. A mature mind is willing to update its position after receiving better information. That ability is often more valuable than being right during every conversation. You may discover that your original opinion was incomplete. You may learn that another person had information you did not have. You may change your approach after seeing better results from a different method. Changing your mind because the evidence improved is not weakness. It is intellectual honesty. Build this habit through small decisions. Before choosing a product, compare its actual usefulness with its price. Before accepting advice, consider whether the person has relevant experience. Before believing a strong claim online, check where the information came from. Before repeating something you heard, ask whether you know it to be accurate. These actions train your mind to become more careful with information. You do not need to become suspicious of everything. You simply need to stop treating confidence as proof. A person can speak with certainty and still be wrong. A quiet person can have valuable information. Good judgment looks at evidence rather than personality alone. Reading can strengthen your thinking when you read actively. Do not simply move your eyes across pages and call it learning. After reading a useful section, stop and ask what the main idea was. Then ask how it applies to your life. Write one sentence from your own understanding. This forces your mind to process the information instead of merely receiving it. You can take this further by keeping a learning notebook. Write down useful ideas, questions, mistakes, and lessons from your day. Do not turn it into a long diary. Record information that can improve your decisions. After a week, review the notes and look for patterns. You may notice that certain problems appear repeatedly because you have not changed the behavior causing them. Your mistakes can become one of your best sources of education. Most people dislike examining mistakes because they connect them with embarrassment. But a mistake contains information about a decision, a method, or habit. The useful question is not simply what went wrong. Ask where the process first moved in the wrong direction. Suppose you arrive late for an important meeting. The obvious problem is being late, but the real cause may have happened the night before. Perhaps you slept too late. Perhaps you did not prepare your clothes. Perhaps you underestimated traffic. Perhaps you ignored the first alarm. Finding the first point of failure gives you something specific to change. This way of thinking can save you from solving the wrong problem. If you only tell yourself to be more responsible, nothing changes because the instruction is too vague. If you decide to prepare everything before sleeping and leave 20 minutes earlier, your solution becomes measurable. Daily practice also means learning to make decisions with incomplete information. You will rarely know everything. Waiting for complete certainty can create unnecessary delay. Instead, identify the information that would actually change your decision. Gather that information and move forward when you have enough to act responsibly. For example, before buying an expensive course, you may need to know what skills it teaches, who created it, what the refund policy is, and whether the material matches your current level. You probably do not need to research every opinion on the internet. Good thinking includes knowing when enough information is enough. Another useful exercise is considering consequences before acting. Take a decision you're about to make and ask what happens next. Then ask what could happen after that. You do not need to predict 10 years into the future. Look 1 or 2 steps ahead. This can expose problems that are invisible in the immediate moment. A person spends money because they want something now. Looking 1 step ahead means asking how the purchase affects this month's budget. Someone accepts another responsibility because they want to please a colleague. Looking ahead means considering whether the extra work will damage an existing commitment. Someone sends an angry message because they want immediate relief. Looking ahead means considering how the relationship may feel tomorrow. This practice strengthens judgment because it teaches your mind to consider consequences rather than only immediate feelings. You should also challenge your own first solution. When you face a problem, generate at least 2 possible approaches before choosing one. The first idea is not always the best idea. A second option can reveal a simpler method. A third can reveal a risk you had not noticed. This is especially useful at work. A problem appears, and your first instinct is to work harder. But perhaps the real issue is poor organization. Maybe a task can be automated. Maybe another person has information you need. Maybe the deadline needs clarification. Strong thinking looks beyond effort and examines the system around the problem. Ask better questions during the day. What is actually happening? What evidence do I have? What am I assuming? What is the real problem? What would happen next? What information is missing? What is the simplest useful action? Do not ask all of these questions every time you choose what to eat or which shirt to wear. Use them for decisions that matter. The purpose of practice is to develop a habit of careful thinking where it has the greatest value. Your conversations can become another training ground. Before disagreeing with someone, state their position accurately in your own mind. Try to understand why a reasonable person might reach that conclusion. You do not need to agree with them. You simply need to understand the reasoning before judging it. This can make you more persuasive because people respond differently when they feel understood. It also exposes weaknesses in your own argument. Sometimes you discover that the disagreement is smaller than you believed. Other times, you identify the exact point where your views differ. Give yourself a weekly thinking session. Choose one important area of your life and review what happened during the past 7 days. Look at decisions you made. Look at results. Look at mistakes. Look at information you ignored. Then choose one change for the following week. Keep the change small enough to measure. Maybe you will review your schedule every Sunday. Maybe you will research purchases before spending. Maybe you will write down major decisions before making them. Maybe you will spend 15 minutes learning a useful skill each evening. The value comes from repetition. One thoughtful exercise will not transform your judgment. Hundreds of small exercises can change the way your mind approaches problems. You will still make poor decisions sometimes. You will misunderstand people. You will overlook important information. You will act too quickly. The goal is not perfect thinking. The goal is improving the quality of your thinking over time. Give your mind daily work that makes it stronger. Read with attention. Question important assumptions. Study your mistakes. Explain what you learn. Compare evidence. Consider consequences. Review your decisions. Learn from people who know more than you. Adjust your methods when better information becomes available. Your thinking becomes stronger through use. Each day gives you situations that can teach you something if you are willing to study them. Treat ordinary decisions as opportunities to practice judgment. Learn from what happens. Make the next decision with better information. Continue that process long enough, and better thinking will become part of how you naturally approach your life. Chapter 7. Turn difficult thoughts into better decisions. Difficult thoughts become useful when you learn how to work with them instead of simply trying to escape them. A stressful thought can point toward a problem that needs attention. A painful thought can reveal something you value. A repeated worry can show where preparation is missing. Your mind may produce discomfort, but that discomfort can become information when you examine it carefully. Start with one important distinction. A thought is not the same as a decision. You can notice a thought without acting on it. You can feel uncertain without canceling your plans. You can feel disappointed without treating the situation as hopeless. This separation gives you room to decide what the thought means and what action, if any, should follow. Take a difficult thought that has been bothering you recently. Write the exact sentence your mind keeps producing. Do not make it polite or positive. Write it honestly. Then identify the problem hidden inside that thought. A statement such as, "I am falling behind," may contain several different concerns. Perhaps your work is disorganized. Perhaps your skills need improvement. Perhaps you are comparing yourself with people who are at a different stage. Once you identify the actual issue, the thought becomes easier to handle. A vague concern creates emotional pressure because you do not know what to do with it. A specific problem gives you choices. You can learn a skill, change a schedule, ask for help, reduce a commitment, or set a clear target. This is one of the most useful habits you can develop. Translate emotional language into practical information. Suppose you keep thinking, "Nobody respects me." Instead of accepting the statement as a complete description of your life, examine recent situations. Did someone interrupt you during a meeting? Did someone ignore an agreement? Did you allow a boundary to be crossed? Did you avoid speaking clearly about what you needed? The thought may be pointing toward a real issue, but the original wording may be too broad to help you solve it. Now, turn the concern into an action. You might decide to address one specific behavior with one specific person. You might say that you need uninterrupted time to finish explaining an important point. You might clarify a responsibility that has been misunderstood. You might stop agreeing to tasks that you cannot reasonably complete. This approach prevents emotional thoughts from becoming permanent judgments. Difficult thoughts often become stronger late at night. The room is quiet. The day's distractions have stopped. Your mind returns to unfinished conversations, financial concerns, mistakes, and uncertain plans. A small problem can feel much larger because you are tired and have fewer distractions. Do not make major judgments about your life while exhausted. Record the concern and decide what needs attention tomorrow. Your future deserves decisions made with enough rest and information. A tired mind often wants immediate certainty, but important problems usually require careful thought. You can create a short evening process for this. Write the concern. Write the part you can control. Write one action for tomorrow. Then stop working on the problem for the night. This does not guarantee that the concern disappears, but it gives your mind a clear place to return to it. Another difficult thought comes from regret. You remember something you said or did and wish you had acted differently. The mind can replay the event many times without producing a better result. Replaying the scene feels like work, but it often changes nothing. Use regret differently. Identify the exact lesson. Maybe you spoke without enough information. Maybe you ignored an early warning. Maybe you trusted someone too quickly. Maybe you delayed a decision. Once you know the lesson, create a rule for future situations. That turns a painful memory into practical knowledge. For example, after making a poor purchase, you can decide to wait 24 hours before buying expensive items. After sending an angry message, you can decide never to send serious responses while emotionally charged. After missing an important deadline, you can create an earlier personal deadline. The mistake remains part of your history, but its value changes because it teaches you how to act differently. Difficult thoughts can also come from uncertainty about the future. You may worry about your career, money, health, relationships, or responsibilities. Some uncertainty cannot be removed. Trying to achieve complete certainty can consume enormous amounts of time. Instead, identify the information that would reduce the uncertainty. If you are worried about your career, research the skills required for the position you want. If money is the concern, examine your actual spending rather than repeatedly worrying about it. If a relationship feels uncertain, have an honest conversation rather than constructing explanations alone. Action does not always solve uncertainty immediately, but it often produces better information. You should also learn to distinguish useful worry from repeated worry. Useful worry leads to preparation. You notice a possible problem and take steps to reduce the risk. Repeated worry produces the same mental sentence without changing your behavior. The difference is not how worried you feel. The difference is whether the thought leads to useful action. Set a limit for problem solving. Give yourself 20 minutes to examine an issue. Write down the facts, possible causes, available options, and next action. If there is nothing more you can do at that moment, stop. Return to the problem when new information becomes available. This prevents your mind from spending hours solving a problem that currently has no additional solution. Difficult thoughts can also appear after criticism. A single negative comment can become the main thing you remember about your entire day. You may ignore 10 positive pieces of feedback and focus entirely on one sentence that hurt. Look at criticism in parts. What exactly was said? Is there a factual point? Is the criticism relevant to your responsibilities? Does the person have enough information to judge the situation? Is there something you can improve? Once you separate useful information from personal opinion, you can learn without accepting every negative statement as truth. You can also use difficult thoughts to identify values. Anger may reveal that fairness matters to you. Disappointment may show that a relationship is important. Frustration may reveal that you care about doing good work. The emotion does not tell you exactly what to do, but it can tell you what deserves examination. Suppose you feel deeply frustrated because a project is not progressing. That frustration may reveal that you value competence and responsibility. Instead of attacking yourself or your coworkers, identify the exact obstacle. Is the goal unclear? Are responsibilities divided poorly? Is information missing? Is the deadline unrealistic? Once the value is identified, you can work on the actual problem. Do not confuse accepting a difficult thought with agreeing with it. You can say, "I am worried that I may fail," without deciding that failure is certain. You can say, "I feel rejected," without deciding that you are unwanted. You can say, "I am disappointed with my progress," without deciding that improvement is impossible. Accurate language creates better choices. Your difficult thoughts can also reveal patterns in your environment. Perhaps you repeatedly feel overwhelmed because you accept too many requests. Perhaps you constantly worry about money because you never review your spending. Perhaps you regularly feel guilty because your standards are unrealistic. Perhaps you become angry because you repeatedly allow small problems to remain unresolved. Do not always look inside yourself for the entire solution. Sometimes the right change is external. Change the schedule, change the agreement, change the environment, change the people you spend the most time with, change the process. A useful mindset does not blame the individual for every problem. It examines the conditions producing the problem. Use a decision page for difficult choices. Write the decision at the top. List the facts you know. List the facts you need. Write the benefits of each option. Write the costs. Write what happens if you do nothing. Then identify the option that best fits your current responsibilities and values. This method slows emotional decisions without making you indecisive. You are not trying to find a perfect choice. You are trying to make a responsible choice with the information available. After the decision, stop endlessly reopening it unless new information appears. Many people make a choice and then spend days questioning themselves. That creates another form of mental exhaustion. Review the decision at a reasonable time. Learn from the result. But do not punish yourself by repeatedly asking whether you should have chosen differently when nothing new has happened. Your mind needs practice in turning discomfort into direction. The process is simple, but requires discipline. Notice the difficult thought. Write it clearly. Separate facts from interpretation. Identify the real issue. Find what you can control. Choose one practical action. Then observe the result. Repeat this process with different problems. Over time, difficult thoughts can become less frightening because you know how to handle them. You do not need every concern to disappear before you move forward. You need a method for examining concerns and deciding what deserves action. A difficult thought can tell you to prepare. It can tell you to communicate. It can tell you to learn. It can tell you to change a habit. It can tell you to accept something you cannot control. The thought itself is only the starting information. Your decision determines what happens next. Use your hardest thoughts as opportunities to become more precise, more responsible, and more deliberate. Do not allow emotional language to decide your future. Examine the concern. Find the real problem. Take the useful action. Let experience teach you what your next decision should be. Chapter 8. Feed your mind with better ideas. The information you consume each day quietly influences the way you understand your life. Your mind does not simply receive information and leave it unchanged. It uses information to form opinions, expectations, priorities, and decisions. The quality of what you regularly read, watch, hear, and discuss can affect the quality of the choices you make. Look at the first hour of your morning. Many people begin the day by opening their phones and entering a stream of other people's opinions, arguments, advertisements, complaints, and personal updates. Before they have decided what matters to them, hundreds of outside messages have already competed for their attention. This habit can make the day feel mentally crowded before important work even begins. Create a better starting point. Give yourself some time before consuming unnecessary information. Drink your water. Sit quietly. Review your responsibilities. Read something useful. Write down what you need to accomplish. The purpose is not to avoid the world. It is to decide what deserves access to your mind before the outside world makes that decision for you. Your mind needs useful information, but useful does not always mean comfortable. Good ideas can challenge beliefs you have held for years. A useful book may show you that your habits are poorly designed. A teacher may point out a weakness in your approach. A thoughtful conversation may reveal that your opinion is incomplete. Choose information that helps you grow rather than information that only confirms what you already believe. This is especially important because people naturally prefer information that agrees with them. You may enjoy watching someone who says exactly what you already think. You may follow accounts that support your opinions and avoid anything that challenges them. This can create confidence without understanding. Practice intellectual variety. Read about subjects outside your usual interests. Listen to people who have different experiences. Study arguments you disagree with before rejecting them. Ask what evidence supports their position. You do not need to accept every idea. You need to understand enough to evaluate it fairly. One of the best ways to improve the quality of your thinking is to read slowly enough to remember what you read. Do not measure learning by the number of books you finish. Measure it by what changes in your understanding or behavior. 10 pages that lead to one useful change can be more valuable than 100 pages you cannot remember. After reading something useful, close the book and explain the main idea without looking. Then ask how it applies to your current life. If you cannot explain the idea simply, you may need to study it again. This turns reading from passive entertainment into active learning. Keep a small list of ideas worth practicing. Do not collect hundreds of quotes. Record principles that affect behavior. Maybe you learn a better way to manage your time. Maybe you discover a useful communication technique. Maybe you understand why a habit keeps failing. Write the lesson in your own words and test it in real life. Your mind improves through application. Information that never reaches your behavior has limited practical value. Suppose you learn that planning the next day at night can reduce morning confusion. Try it for 1 week. Prepare your clothes. Decide your first task. Write your schedule. Then observe whether your mornings improve. The experience will teach you more than simply agreeing with the idea. Be selective about entertainment as well. Entertainment is not bad. Rest and enjoyment are part of a healthy life. The issue appears when easy entertainment becomes the main source of mental stimulation. If you spend hours watching short clips every day, your mind may become accustomed to constant novelty. Then slower activities such as reading, studying, or careful conversation can feel unusually difficult. You do not need to remove all entertainment. Create boundaries around it. Decide when you will watch. decide how long you will stay. Do not let an algorithm choose your entire evening. Use entertainment as something you choose rather than something that automatically fills every empty moment. Pay attention to the emotional effect of the content you consume. Some information leaves you informed and ready to act. Other content leaves you angry, anxious, jealous, or exhausted. Notice the difference. You do not have to avoid every difficult topic, but you should understand what repeated exposure is doing to your attention and mood. A useful rule is to ask what a piece of information is trying to make you do. Some content wants you to learn. Some wants you to buy. Some wants you to become angry. Some wants you to compare yourself with others. Some wants you to keep watching. Recognizing the purpose behind the content makes you less likely to accept its influence without examination. Your conversations also feed your mind. The people around you regularly discuss certain subjects. If every conversation centers on gossip, complaints, and other people's failures, those topics can become familiar. You may begin discussing them automatically. On the other hand, conversations about learning, work, family, goals, books, skills, and real problems can increase the quality of your attention. This does not mean avoiding friends who are struggling. Good relationships include difficult conversations. The important difference is whether the conversation moves toward understanding and action or remains trapped in repeated complaints. You can listen to someone who is having a hard time without encouraging helplessness. Ask better questions in conversation. Instead of only asking what went wrong, ask what they learned. Instead of discussing who is to blame, ask what needs to happen next. Instead of comparing someone's life with another person's, ask what they genuinely want to improve. Good questions can change the direction of a conversation. Your mind also needs time to process information. Consuming more and more material does not automatically create wisdom. You need periods of quiet where you can connect ideas with experience. After reading something important, take a walk without your phone. Let yourself consider how the idea relates to your own decisions. This is especially useful for difficult subjects. You may read about discipline and realize that your problem is not laziness, but poor scheduling. You may study communication and discover that you listen mainly to defend yourself. You may learn about money and recognize that your spending is driven by stress rather than need. Quiet reflection allows information to become personal understanding. Be careful with motivational content as well. Motivation can be useful, but constant motivational messages can become a substitute for action. You can listen to hundreds of speeches about discipline and still avoid the work that discipline requires. Use motivation as a reminder, then apply the principle through behavior. A good test is simple. After consuming useful content, ask what you will do differently today. If you cannot identify an action, you may have enjoyed the information without learning from it. Choose one subject that would improve your current life and study it consistently. Do not jump between 20 subjects every week. Give yourself enough time to develop basic understanding. If communication matters, study communication. If financial management matters, study personal finance. If your career requires a skill, learn that skill. Focus creates depth. You can also learn from people through direct observation. Watch how a skilled person handles pressure. Notice how they speak to difficult customers. Observe how they organize their work. Study how they prepare before an important meeting. Practical examples can teach details that general advice often misses. Ask experienced people specific questions. Do not simply ask how to become successful. Ask what they do before important meetings. Ask how they handle mistakes. Ask what they stopped doing as they became more experienced. Ask which skill took them the longest to learn. Specific questions produce useful information. Teach what you learned to someone else. Explaining an idea forces you to organize it. You may discover gaps in your understanding. You may also discover that you can explain a complicated subject more simply than you expected. Teaching is a form of mental practice because it requires clarity. Create a weekly information review. Look at the books, videos, conversations, and articles that occupied your attention. Ask which ones gave you useful knowledge. Ask which ones mainly created emotional reactions. Ask which ideas you actually applied. Then adjust what you consume next week. Your mind deserves quality input because your decisions depend on it. You cannot make consistently strong choices while allowing every random message to receive equal importance. Be selective. Read with attention. Listen carefully. Question claims. Study useful subjects. Talk with thoughtful people. Give yourself quiet time to process what you learn. The goal is not to know everything. The goal is to become better at choosing what deserves your attention and what deserves your trust. Feed your mind with ideas that help you understand reality more clearly and act more responsibly. Start today with one change. Remove one source of unnecessary noise and replace it with something that teaches you a useful skill or principle. Spend 20 minutes learning. Write down one idea. Use it before the day ends. Repeat that process tomorrow. Over time, the quality of your mental input will influence the quality of your mental habits. Better information can lead to better questions. Better questions can lead to better decisions. Better decisions can lead to better daily actions. That is how the ideas you allow into your mind begin to shape the person you become. Chapter 9. Believe in yourself through small daily wins. Self-belief becomes stronger when you give yourself real evidence that you can rely on your own actions. Telling yourself that you are capable can feel encouraging for a few minutes, but repeated action creates a deeper form of confidence. Every completed task gives you information about your ability to follow through. Every kept promise shows you that your decisions can become behavior. Many people wait for confidence before they begin. They believe they need to feel ready before applying for a job, starting a project, speaking in public, learning a skill, or changing a habit. In practice, confidence often develops after repeated attempts. You begin with uncertainty, complete a manageable action, learn from the result, and become slightly more capable. The next attempt then feels more familiar. Start with something small enough that you can complete it today. Do not choose a goal that requires perfect conditions. Choose a behavior that depends mainly on your own decision. Read 10 pages. Walk for 15 minutes. Clean your workspace. Complete one difficult task before checking entertainment. Practice a skill for 20 minutes. The size of the action matters less than your ability to repeat it. A small win becomes valuable when you notice what it proves. You may have told yourself that you lack discipline. Then you keep one simple promise for 7 days. That experience gives you evidence that the old belief was incomplete. You may have believed that you cannot learn difficult subjects. Then you study consistently for a month and understand something that once seemed confusing. Your opinion of yourself changes because your experience changes. This is why your promises to yourself matter. People often make large promises during emotional moments and abandon them a few days later. That pattern can weaken self-trust. A better approach is to make commitments that are realistic enough to keep. It is better to study for 20 minutes every day for a month than to promise 3 hours and quit after 4 days. Choose one daily commitment for the next 7 days. Write down the exact behavior and the time you will do it. Keep the standard clear. Work on myself is too vague. Read from 7:30 to 8 gives you something you can complete and measure. At the end of each day, mark whether you did it. Do not negotiate with the record. You either completed the behavior or you did not. This simple honesty is important because self-belief cannot grow well on false information. You will eventually miss a day. That does not erase your progress. The important decision is what you do next. Many people turn one missed day into a full return to an old habit because they think they have already failed. A stronger approach is to resume at the next available opportunity. Do not wait for Monday. Do not wait for the beginning of a new month. Restart at the next practical moment. There is another useful lesson here. Measure progress by behaviors before measuring results. A person learning a language may not notice major fluency after 2 weeks, but they can measure study sessions, vocabulary practice, and speaking practice. Someone improving fitness may not see a dramatic physical change immediately, but they can measure workouts, sleep, and food choices. Results often appear later than the actions that create them. If you judge yourself only by visible results, you may quit before your effort has had enough time to work. Measuring the process gives you feedback while the larger result is still developing. This does not mean ignoring results. Results matter. They tell you whether your method is working, but use them to adjust your approach rather than to attack your identity. If your study routine produces poor exam results, examine the method. Maybe you are reading without testing yourself. Maybe you need practice questions. Maybe your study sessions are too short. A poor result can identify a weak process. Small wins also teach you how to handle resistance. You may wake up tired and still complete your planned walk. You may feel distracted and still finish 20 minutes of study. You may want to postpone an important task and choose to begin anyway. These moments are valuable because they show you that action does not always require a strong emotional state. Pay attention to what makes action easier. Maybe you perform better in the morning. Maybe you need your phone in another room. Maybe you need to prepare the night before. Maybe you need a clear starting point. Do not treat every failure as a character problem. Sometimes the system around the habit needs adjustment. Create a starting ritual for important tasks. Put your materials on the desk. Close unrelated applications. Set a timer. Write the first action on paper, then begin. A predictable starting routine reduces the number of decisions required before work begins. Self-belief also grows when you keep learning from mistakes. Imagine that you give a poor presentation. You may feel embarrassed afterward. Instead of deciding that you are not a good speaker, review the event. Did you speak too quickly? Did you prepare without practicing aloud? Did you use too much information? Did you fail to organize your main points? Choose one weakness to improve before the next presentation. This creates a healthier relationship with failure. You are not asking whether you are talented enough. You're asking what the experience taught you and what you will change. Skill grows through correction. Be careful about seeking constant approval from other people. Compliments can feel good, but they cannot provide stable self-trust. Someone may praise you today and criticize you tomorrow. If your confidence depends entirely on their reaction, your emotional state will keep changing with their opinions. Build private evidence. Complete work nobody sees. Keep promises that nobody will applaud. Practice when there is no audience. Save money without announcing it. Read when nobody asks you to. Exercise without posting it. These actions create a relationship with yourself that does not depend on public recognition. There is also a difference between confidence and certainty. You do not need to believe that you will succeed before taking action. You need to believe that you can respond intelligently to whatever happens. That is a more stable form of self-trust. You may not know whether the interview will lead to a job. You can know that you will prepare carefully. You may not know whether the new business idea will work. You can know that you will study the market and control your spending. You may not know whether someone will accept your proposal. You can know that you will communicate clearly and handle the answer respectfully. This way of thinking reduces the pressure to predict the future. Your confidence becomes connected to your ability to act responsibly, rather than your ability to guarantee results. Keep a record of your completed actions. At the end of the week, write down what you followed through on. Include ordinary things. You finished a difficult assignment. You exercised 5 times. You made a phone call you had been avoiding. You kept a spending limit. You studied consistently. These details matter because memory often focuses on what went wrong and forgets quiet progress. Reviewing evidence can correct an unfair self-image. You may feel that you accomplished nothing because one major goal remains unfinished. Your record may show that you actually completed dozens of useful actions. The goal is still important, but your current progress deserves accurate recognition. Set goals that allow frequent feedback. A large goal such as become successful does not tell you whether today's behavior is working. A smaller target such as complete 4 focused work sessions this week gives you a clear measurement. You can evaluate it quickly and make adjustments. Do not make your goals so easy that they require no effort. A useful small win should stretch you slightly. It should require attention and discipline while remaining realistic. The purpose is to create repeated evidence that you can handle responsibility. Your environment can help protect these wins. Put reminders where you can see them. Prepare necessary materials before the activity. Reduce distractions. Tell someone you trust about a commitment if accountability helps you. Make the desired behavior easier to begin. At the same time, remove unnecessary opportunities to break the habit. If you want to reduce late-night phone use, charge the phone away from the bed. If you want to save money, remove shopping applications from your home screen. If you want to study after dinner, prepare the desk before eating. Small changes become powerful through repetition. One disciplined morning does not change your identity. Hundreds of disciplined mornings create a different record of who you are. Give yourself a practical challenge for the next 7 days. Choose one behavior that would improve your life. Make the commitment specific. Complete it every day. Record the result. If you miss once, resume immediately. At the end of the week, study what happened. Then choose another small behavior. Your confidence does not need to be loud. It can be quiet and practical. It can come from knowing that you have done difficult things before. It can come from keeping promises when nobody was watching. It can come from learning after mistakes instead of using them as evidence against yourself. Believe in yourself by giving yourself reasons to believe. Build those reasons through action. Let each completed responsibility add another piece of evidence. Over time, you will not need to convince yourself with empty words. Your daily behavior will show you what you are capable of becoming. Chapter 10. Create a better life through better thinking. A better life is built through better decisions made repeatedly. Your circumstances matter, but your daily choices determine how you respond to those circumstances. The way you interpret a setback affects what you do next. The way you judge your abilities affects which opportunities you attempt. The way you use your time affects what you can become. Better thinking becomes valuable when it changes the way you live. Look at your current life through your daily decisions rather than your wishes. Your routine reveals what your mind has been prioritizing. Your spending shows what you value in practice. Your conversations show what occupies your attention. Your use of time shows what you consider important. This is not a reason to criticize yourself. It is a way to see your life accurately enough to improve it. Take one ordinary day and study it honestly. Write down where your time goes from morning until night. Include work, meals, travel, phone use, conversations, entertainment, exercise, learning, and sleep. Most people discover that their day contains far more unplanned time than they realize. Once you can see it, you can make better decisions about it. Do the same with your thoughts. Notice which subjects occupy your mind repeatedly. Are you mostly planning, worrying, comparing, complaining, learning, solving, or remembering old events? Your mental habits influence your behavior, and your behavior creates the conditions of your life. A useful life does not require perfect thinking. It requires enough awareness to catch patterns before they become permanent. You may notice that you spend too much time worrying about things you cannot control. You may discover that you avoid difficult tasks until pressure becomes extreme. You may realize that certain conversations leave you distracted for hours. Each discovery gives you a possible point of improvement. Start with one area, rather than trying to rebuild everything. Choose the part of your life causing the greatest practical difficulty. It might be your schedule, finances, work habits, communication, health routine, or learning. Define the problem clearly. A vague goal creates vague action. A specific problem gives you something to work on. Suppose your problem is financial stress. Do not begin by telling yourself that you need to become rich. Start with facts. Record your income. Record your regular expenses. Record your unnecessary spending. Identify payments that can be reduced. Decide how much you want to save each month. Then create a system that makes the desired behavior easier. The same process works with your career. Instead of saying that you need a better job, identify the specific reason you want one. Do you need higher income? Do you want more responsibility? Do you need better working hours? Do you want to develop a particular skill? Once the reason is clear, you can choose actions that match it. Better thinking requires accurate goals. A goal that is chosen mainly to impress other people can create years of unnecessary effort. You may chase a position you do not actually want because it looks successful. You may spend money on things you do not need because you want approval. You may stay in a situation because changing it would make other people uncomfortable. Ask yourself what kind of daily life you're actually trying to create. Consider your responsibilities, relationships, work, health, learning, and personal time. Success is not only a result you achieve, it is also the way you live while working toward that result. This does not mean choosing comfort over growth. A meaningful life will require effort. You may need to learn difficult skills. You may need to work longer during certain seasons. You may need to change habits that feel familiar. The important point is that the effort should serve a clear purpose. Your thinking becomes stronger when you learn to distinguish what is urgent from what is important. An urgent message may demand immediate attention. An important skill may produce benefits over several years, but never send you a notification. A small household problem may feel pressing while your long-term financial planning remains untouched. Each morning, identify the important action that could easily be ignored. Give it time before the day becomes crowded. This one practice can change the direction of your weeks because important work often requires attention before it becomes urgent. Your relationships also deserve better thinking. You cannot build a good life while treating important relationships as something that will take care of itself. People need time, attention, honesty, and respect. Small misunderstandings can grow when they are repeatedly ignored. Ask yourself which relationships need more presence from you. Perhaps someone needs a conversation you have been postponing. Perhaps you need to apologize. Perhaps you need to establish a boundary. Perhaps you need to stop giving energy to a relationship that repeatedly damages your peace. Good thinking does not mean keeping every relationship at any cost. It means making deliberate choices about the people who have access to your time and attention. Respect other people while also respecting your own responsibilities and limits. Your health is another area where thinking becomes action. Many people wait until they feel terrible before changing their routine. A better approach is to understand that daily choices accumulate. Sleep, movement, food, stress, and recovery influence how you feel and function. Choose simple standards you can maintain. Get enough sleep. Move your body regularly. Eat meals that support your energy. Give yourself time away from screens. Do not make every health decision based on temporary emotion. A practical routine is more useful than extreme changes that last only a few days. The same principle applies to learning. Your future opportunities are influenced by what you know and what you can do. Choose a skill that matters to your work or personal goals. Study it regularly. Practice it in real situations. Ask for feedback. Correct weaknesses. Repeat. Do not underestimate the value of 1 hour of focused learning each week. Over months and years, consistent practice can create a large difference between your current ability and your future ability. You also need a method for handling setbacks because no plan works perfectly. A difficult month does not mean your entire strategy has failed. A missed goal does not mean you should abandon the goal. Review the situation, find the cause, decide what needs to change. Ask what the experience taught you about yourself. Maybe your target was unrealistic. Maybe your schedule had no flexibility. Maybe you underestimated the skill required. Maybe you depended on motivation instead of creating a routine. Each answer gives you a better starting point for the next attempt. This is where your thinking determines whether a setback becomes useful. One person sees a bad result and decides to stop. Another examines the result and changes the process. The second person may still feel disappointed, but disappointment does not prevent learning. Create a weekly review that covers the major parts of your life. Look at your work. Look at your money. Look at your health. Look at your relationships. Look at your learning. Ask what improved, what became worse, and what requires attention next week. Do not turn this into a long exercise. 30 minutes can be enough. The purpose is to prevent weeks from passing without reflection. A person who reviews regularly can make small corrections before small problems become large ones. Your environment should also support the life you want. If you want to read more, keep useful books accessible. If you want to exercise, prepare what you need before the activity. If you want to spend less, make unnecessary purchases harder. If you want deeper conversations, put your phone away when speaking with someone important. Do not depend entirely on self-control. Design your surroundings so that good choices become easier. Pay attention to the language you use about your future. Avoid making statements that close the door before you have tested your ability. "I am not good at this" can become a permanent excuse. A more accurate statement is, "I have not developed this skill yet." That wording keeps responsibility in your hands. You should also stop expecting every day to feel productive. Some days will be difficult. You may be tired. Something unexpected may happen. Your schedule may break. A strong life does not require perfect days. It requires the ability to return to useful behavior after disruption. Build recovery into your expectations. Missing one workout does not require abandoning your health routine. Having one unproductive morning does not require wasting the afternoon. Making one poor decision does not require making another poor decision to justify the first one. Return quickly. Your future is shaped by ordinary choices that rarely receive attention from other people. What you do with an empty hour matters. What you read matters. What you buy matters. How you speak to someone who cannot benefit you matters. Whether you keep a small promise matters. These actions gradually create the person you trust yourself to be. Do not wait for a dramatic change to prove that your life is improving. Look for better decisions. Look for calmer responses. Look for stronger habits. Look for more useful conversations. Look for improved skills. Look for fewer excuses. These are practical signs that your thinking is becoming more effective. Take responsibility for the direction of your attention. Choose what deserves your time. Choose what deserves your energy. Choose what information enters your mind. Choose which habits you repeat. Choose which problems require action and which ones require acceptance. You will not control every event that enters your life. You can control the standards you bring to those events. You can choose whether a mistake becomes a lesson. You can choose whether difficulty makes you more careful or simply more bitter. You can choose whether uncertainty leads you to prepare or to remain stuck. Make your thinking useful. Let it guide your actions instead of remaining inside your head as endless planning. Take what you understand and apply it. Review what happens. Correct your method. Continue learning. A better life is not created by one perfect decision. It is created through thousands of ordinary decisions made with greater awareness. Give your mind better information. Give your attention clear priorities. Give your habits enough time to develop. Give your mistakes enough honesty to teach you. Give your future enough patience to grow. Then keep choosing carefully. Every morning gives you another chance to decide what matters. Every difficult moment gives you a chance to respond with greater judgment. Every mistake gives you information. Every small responsibility gives you an opportunity to strengthen your character. The mind shapes the choices you make, and your choices shape the life you live. Train your thinking through daily action, and your life will gradually reflect the quality of those decisions. Closing your mind has been shaping your life through the thoughts you repeat, the choices you make, and the actions you take each day. Now you understand that changing your life does not begin with waiting for better circumstances. It begins with becoming more careful about what you allow yourself to believe and practice. You will still have difficult days. You will still experience fear, doubt, disappointment, and uncertainty. The difference is that you can learn to respond with greater control and better judgment. So, take one idea from this audiobook and use it today. Notice one thought that holds you back. Question it. Replace it with a more useful way of looking at the situation. Then take one small action that supports the person you want to become. Remember this powerful truth. What you repeatedly think influences what you repeatedly do. Come back to this audiobook whenever you need to reset your thinking, strengthen your discipline, or remind yourself that growth is built through daily practice. Your next chapter begins with your next thought. Choose it carefully, then prove it through your actions. And if this audiobook has given you something valuable today, if even one idea has shifted the way you see yourself or your choices, then you are exactly the kind of person we created BetterSelf Audiobook for. We are here to help you grow, one powerful idea at a time. Subscribe to BetterSelf Audiobook so you never miss content that could change the way you think and live. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today, because sometimes one audiobook at the right moment can be the beginning of an entirely different life. Your better self is not something you find. It is something you build, and that building starts right now.